Greetings, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We will begin today's webinar in approximately 2 minutes. The webinar will be recorded and made available via the ESI events webpage at www.ncesi.org. Feel free to check out our chat box for messages throughout the webinar. Thanks again for joining us.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Ron Pridgeon with the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality Environmental Stewardship Initiative, and I'll be your moderator. I want to welcome you to our Environmental Benchmarking Series webinar. Today, we'll hear from Two Rivers Utilities in Gastonia, North Carolina, and learn how they have used pollution prevention strategies and their EMS to reduce cost and increase efficiency. Also, assisting in today's webinar will be Marsha Alaco and Don Burke, my colleagues. On behalf of the ESI program, we'd like to thank the Waste Reduction Partners Program and the Land of Sky Regional Council for hosting today's webinar on the GoToWebinar platform. They've been wonderful partners to us as we've shifted much of our training to online format. So again, special thanks to Terry Albrecht, Section Chief of WRP, for assisting with our virtual ESI events. Just a few housekeeping items before we dig into today's topic. If you have audio issues or you're using the audio through your computer, you can switch to your telephone. Just go to the audio tab in the webinar controls box and click phone. A phone number and a code will then be shown to you so that you can access the webinar. The call-in information is also in your webinar invite email. As stated also, we are recording today's session and you'll be able to check that out later via our ESI events website at www.ncesi.org. In order to prevent any feedback and unintended background noise, all attendees are muted. However, we want you to ask questions and share verbally, so in order to facilitate that, we ask that you raise your hand when you want to speak. Be sure to mute yourself only through the GoToWebinar software. Using the little microphone button at the top of the control bar, it will be red when muted and green when live. It should default to muted, and we can unmute you if you'd like to speak, but to reduce time fumbling through the controls, make sure that you do not use your phone or computer to mute, only the GoToWebinar platform. If you don't necessarily want to speak, but you still have a question, you can also send in comments and questions through our question box at any time during today's presentation. We will share those questions and comments as applicable after the presentation. The remaining time will be dedicated to questions. Again, thank you to Terry Albrecht and the Waste Reduction Partners Program for assisting in the ESI presentation today. They are partners with the Land of Sky Regional Council. WRP and the ESI are part of the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality, which has a mission to support pollution prevention strategies and is actively promoting waste minimization and process efficiency. Terry's contact information is listed on the screen. Please feel free to reach out to him to learn more about the Waste Reduction Partners program. For those of you not familiar with our program, the Esi Stewardship Initiative is a voluntary assistance and recognition program. It's been a part of DEQ since 2002 and is administered by the Division of Environmental Assistance and Customer Service. We are partially funded by an EPA pollution prevention grant, and we promote environmental management systems to assist organizations in their efforts to continuously improve their environmental footprints. We also encourage and facilitate networking and training sessions that allows peer sharing between our members on a wide range of environmental topics. There's no cost to join the ESI program. All we ask is that you submit an annual report on your progress made towards your environmental goals. If you'd like to become a member, or you need more information on the ESI program, please feel free to contact any of the staff listed on the slide today or via our website. This snapshot is just a splash screen of many of the members in our program. We would love to see your organization added to this screen. If you look carefully in the middle of the screen, you'll see our presenter today, Two Rivers Utilities. With that said, we are pleased to have with us today Stephanie Sheringer. Stephanie is the division manager of wastewater treatment at the City of Gastonia's Two Rivers Utilities. Stephanie holds a bachelor's in marine biology along with certifications in biological wastewater treatment, wastewater laboratory analysis, wastewater pretreatment, and biosolids land application. She has 26 years of experience in the wastewater treatment field. Since 2001, the Wastewater Treatment Division has maintained a third-party certified ISO 14000 environmental management system. The division has participated in the ESI program since its inception in 2002. They attained steward recognition at one level or at one plant in 2004 and has since expanded to include steward recognition throughout all of the areas of the wastewater treatment division. Welcome, Stephanie.
Thank you, Ron, and thank you to ESI for the opportunity to present to you all today and talk about how we've been able to achieve pollution prevention while seeing some cost reduction and increased efficiency. Get started. Tell you a little bit about Gastonia. We're located just west of Charlotte along Interstate 85. And Two Rivers Utilities is the department name for Gastonia's Water and Sewer Department. We are a regional water and sewer utility. We have one water treatment plant and 3 wastewater treatment plants. You can see combined, we have about 1,300 miles of collection and distribution lines. Our annual budget's a little over $47 million. Direct customers, we don't have the same number of water and sewer customers, but one is a little over 30,000 and the other is a little over 33,000 direct customers. Our population here in Gastonia is around 77,000, and because we are regional and we serve areas outside of our municipality, the total population that we serve is about 107,000 people. So this shows our service area. So if you look, everything in gray is our direct service area, and that does again reach beyond the city limits of Gastonia. I just popped up a green star towards the east side of the map on Cramerton. We did a full merger with Cramerton in 2011. So Two Rivers owns all of the water and sewer infrastructure within Cramerton, and the folks that live and work in Cramerton are our direct customers as well. And then all the other stars that are populating are other municipalities where we either serve all of their water, all of their sewer, or a portion thereof. And then we have a couple of emergency connections as well with Dallas and with Belmont. So looking at why we as an organization chose to pursue an environmental management system and then chose to participate in ESI, We really looked at our compliance history. In 1999, we had over 40 permit violations at our treatment plants, at our wastewater treatment plants. And at the time, we only had 2 treatment plants. So our compliance really needed improvement. Obviously, city leadership expected improvement. And so we looked at different frameworks to see, what type of system could we use to help us improve. And we chose the ISO 14001. Obviously, a sewer utility, we're all about pollution prevention in the first place, so that framework really fit us extremely well. And we were able to dramatically improve our compliance history. And then when the ESI program came along, we were invited to participate. And ESI was really attractive to us because it's not regulatory. And by the time ESI came along, we really had a goal not to just be in compliance with our permits. We wanted to do more than that. So it really aligned with our goal to go beyond compliance. And we were really attracted to the fact that ESI offers training and support that we thought would be very helpful for us and has proven to be. And then it's a third-party validation to share with our customers. So here in Gaston County, our economic development folks do a lot of outreach looking for new industrial customers and that sort of thing. And this is something that the economic development staff can share with those potential industrial customers, particularly with those customers for which water and sewer is a very important part of their business, so that they can understand that we're a quality utility that can really meet their needs and serve them well if they choose to locate here. So it's just a brief history. We decided in 1999 to implement ISO 14001. We attained that certification in 2001. Then you can kind of look through and see the progression. All 3 of our wastewater treatment plants participate in ISO 14001, and our biosolids resource recovery farm does as well. And in 2020, we combined all of those sites within our wastewater treatment division into one steward designation. And our water treatment plant participates as well. They attained the ISO 14001 in 2005, and then stewardship designation in 2009. So we really have a long history where we've progressed. And we gained the one treatment plant through the merger that I mentioned with Cramerton. We gained a 3rd wastewater treatment plant. So that was part of what we've added to our ISO and our EMS program over time. And EMS is our management tool. You can see the items mentioned there, everything from budgeting to communication internally and externally, our long-term goals, legal compliance. It really goes across all aspects of our business activities, and it gives us that structured framework to work within, and it fits our business really, really well, and it ensures that we have staff involvement at all levels. So from entry-level staff up to executive-level staff, everybody has a role, and everybody understands what that role is. So I think there's a little bit of an assumption that a lot of people have, that pollution prevention and operating costs are kind of in a bit of a tug of war against each other. That if you really want to improve in terms of pollution prevention, that potentially that's really going to raise operating costs, or that if you really want to control operating costs, that it's going to prevent you from achieving pollution prevention. And that's something that we really have not seen, and that's really what we want to talk about today. So I'm going to go through and describe several projects for you that we've completed, and touch on those efficiency and cost reductions that we were able to achieve with those projects, along with pollution prevention. So the first project is this potable water reduction. This is at one of our wastewater treatment plants, and wastewater plants actually use a lot of water within the process. Water is used to carry chemicals into the treatment process and for several other needs. So if you look at 1999 through 2001, we were using on average about 20 million gallons of water a year at this one treatment plant. And we already had at the treatment plant an effluent water reuse pump station. So once all the water has gone through the treatment process and it's cleaned and ready to be discharged out into the water body, we have the ability to pump that water back into the treatment plant. There's a piping system already in place, so we could use that water for a lot of the needs that we had within the plant, such as carrying those chemicals into the plant processes and so forth. So we put that existing pump station into use, and you can see the dramatic reduction there in water. Some years we do use more potable water. Say in 2005, we had some repair issues and so forth with the pumping system that we needed to take care of. So obviously we use more potable water. But on the whole, if you look at using 20 million gallons of water a year, potable water, and then down to what we're using now, that represents about a $50,000 a year cost savings. And one of the questions that we get about this is, does that cost savings really matter because you're a water and sewer utility? And it does matter to our division because we have to pay the water treatment folks for the water that we use. And then conversely, the water treatment folks have to pay the sewer folks for the sewer that they discharge. So it does save money on our end. And then for private businesses that may be on the webinar today, obviously this would be a bigger savings for you if you're not a utility. We've also worked for many, many years on reducing our chemical usage at the treatment plants. Most of the chemicals that are fed into a wastewater treatment plant are there to support the biological activity, because the biological activity of the microbes is what does really the heart and soul of the treatment process. But chemicals are very expensive, so we've worked really hard on optimizing the plant processes through various means. And this is an example from one of our treatment plants where on average we've cut the chemical usage by close to 50%. And that's really required a lot more effort and closer monitoring by our staff, them thinking about, can I reduce chemicals and making those adjustments more often. So it does obviously require some staff effort, but it saved a lot of money. And the way that I kind of pitch it to our staff is, if you can save money on chemicals, then we can take that money and use it for something else that we need to do here at the treatment plant. And so that gets their buy-in to want to do that, because they have other things they may like to do that we weren't able to budget for. And the cost savings on this one is really, really variable. Because chemical prices are variable. For example, right now, caustic soda cost double what it cost this time last year. So it's very variable, again, in terms of cost savings. But there have been years where we've saved a couple $100,000. Last year, we didn't see any savings because the cost of chemicals were so much higher. But then there was a good bit of cost avoidance. Because, if your feed is up and your prices are up, obviously that's going to cost more. And this is a really, really simple project. Very economical, very quick and easy to do for our staff. We have storm drains throughout the facilities, and we have, as I mentioned, chemical deliveries. We do liquid biosolids land applications, so there's trucks loading with biosolids and leaving the facility. So there's all kinds of things going on. And if there were any type of chemical spill or biosolid spill or that sort of thing, we wanted to know very, very quickly, where is this going to go, so that we can have an appropriate response. So any storm drain that's painted red drains off-site to a waterway. Then we have a map that our staff can reference, so it shows each of the storm drains, specifically which outfall that it would lead out of in case they need to do an emergency response. And then anything in yellow drains to the head of the treatment plant. So for example, if there were a chemical spill, say of caustic, and it's draining to the head of the treatment plant, then our staff understand operationally they're going to need to make some changes very quickly and be on top of that. And then, as I mentioned, if it's going into a red storm drain, then they know exactly where to go for that response. And fortunately, that's not something that we have a lot of issues with, but it's in place just in case that were ever to happen. so our staff can be very quick and efficient in their response. And electrical energy, I know, gets a lot of attention from pretty much all of the members that I'm aware of in the ESI program, and certainly from us as well. Water and wastewater plants use a lot of energy to get the water clean. So our first goal related to electrical energy was to reduce our consumption by 5% in 3 years. And we were able to achieve that goal. So we have the action items listed that we completed to achieve that goal. So the first thing that we did was an energy assessment. And through the Environmental Stewardship Initiative, we were able to work at no cost to City of Gastonia with waste reduction partners. So they came out and did an energy assessment. They made several recommendations that we implemented. We tried to be more efficient in minimizing equipment usage. So say if we had a treatment basin in service that didn't necessarily have to be in service at that point, given the amount of wastewater flow that we had coming in, then we would look to take that equipment out of service. And that's the kind of thing that requires some staff effort, obviously. It's easier for staff a lot of times to have extra equipment, if you will, in service. But taking the equipment in and out of service certainly realizes an electrical cost reduction. So that's something we've been able to successfully implement. We also, through Waste Reduction Partners recommendations, learned that when we have a motor that needs to be replaced or rewound, if it's malfunctioning or if it's not working, that it makes more sense economically to replace it with a new motor rather than rewinding it. And that's important for us. We have a lot of large pumps at the treatment plant. Everything from small 5 horsepower pumps up to 250 horsepower. And we have blowers as well that are 100 to 250 horsepower. So we didn't know that when that motor went bad, if we had it rewound, that you would lose efficiency on the electrical side. So we did the math with Waste Reduction Partners and figured out that even though it costs more to replace the motor, we're saving in the long run on electrical consumption. And then you have greater reliability as well, since you have a new motor. And then we have the photo there of the overhead lights. We have malfunctioning photo cells. So a lot of the lights that we have out for staff, because we are operated and staffed 24/7, a lot of those lights have malfunctioning photo cells. And so the lights were just on 24 hours a day. And it wasn't something we had really given a lot of thought to, but again, that was one of the recommendations. So we repaired those malfunctioning photo cells and saved some consumption there. Then our next goal was to reduce electrical consumption by an additional 5%. We were also able to achieve this goal. So in terms of action items, clearly we continued everything from our first goal. And then we also started to purchase premium efficiency equipment. So the photo there is one of the large pumps that pumps the incoming wastewater into the treatment process. I want to say that one's probably a 200 horsepower motor off the top of my head. So again, we did the math and figured out that even though a premium efficiency motor is going to cost more than a less efficient motor, we're going to save money on the back end on the electricity. And we've implemented a lot of computer controls to help minimize equipment stops and starts, since there is that pull of electricity when you start equipment. We've replaced HVACs and we replaced lighting as part of this second goal. And then we also, as part of this goal, did a blower relocation project. So at one of our treatment plants, we had a blower that was 250 horsepower, but it was oversized for the needs of the treatment facility. So we were actually able to get a grant from Environmental Stewardship Initiative, and I believe it was a $10,000 grant. So we had a 150 horsepower blower at another one of our treatment facilities. So we just swapped them out. We just relocated the 150 horsepower blower to the facility that where that blower was more in alignment with that facility's needs. And that was an in-house project that was completed by our staff, construction-wise. And then that saved almost 75 kilowatts every hour. And these blowers typically run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week as part of the treatment process. So we realized a fair amount of savings there as well. Another project that we've done is work with our neighbors to decommission some of the other treatment plants in this area and to send the wastewater that they were treating formerly to one of our treatment plants. Because treatment plants require a minimum amount of electricity to run, regardless of how much wastewater is coming into the plant. So there is kind of a floor or a baseline of electrical energy consumption, regardless of your flow. So we started to look at that. And if you look at the graph, mg is million gallons. So we looked at how much electrical energy does it take per million gallons to treat this wastewater. And then we plotted that against flow. So you can see as your flow goes down, the amount of energy it takes to run the plant per million gallons that you're treating goes up. And there's that kind of that breakaway point you can see on the graph. And this was an issue for us because after the North American Free Trade Agreement went into effect in the 90s, we lost a significant amount of industrial customers. Prior to NAFTA, Gastonia was heavy into textiles, was the textile capital of the world at one point. We had multiple customers that used over 1 million gallons a day in water and sewer. But then after NAFTA, a lot of those folks relocated elsewhere in North America, and we lost a tremendous amount of flow. So we had a lot of excess capacity at our treatment facilities. And then again, looking at electrical usage per million gallons treated, you know, we really weren't efficient on that end. And there wasn't a lot that we could do to gain those efficiencies other than get more wastewater into our treatment plants. So by receiving more wastewater from the other plants, the total electrical usage remained very, very similar, but we were seeing an increase in revenue. So this aligned really closely with our business goals as well as our environmental and pollution prevention goals. So to talk about the pollution prevention side a little bit more, here's a list of the treatment plants that have been decommissioned so far in this area in Gaston County, and the flow from all of those plants comes to one of our plants now. And the way that this increased pollution prevention is that Two Rivers plants are biological nutrient removal treatment facilities, whereas the plants that were decommissioned don't have that capability. These were older plants that weren't required to have that biological nutrient removal equipment installed when they were built. So by sending that flow to a more sophisticated plant, we were able to achieve a significant reduction in nutrient loading to the water body, which is the South Fork Catawba River. So total nitrogen's been reduced by almost 35,000 pounds a year, and total phosphorus by about 4,700 pounds a year. And then I wanted to mention our wildlife program. And this one is not so much related to efficiency or reducing cost. It's more related to staff buy-in. We have a lot of folks on staff that really are outdoors type people. They love animals, they love plants, and so on. So this was a very staff-driven project. We've asked a lot of our staff in terms of operating our facilities more efficiently, operating them more closely, and so forth. And this project is something where you kind of can get that staff buy-in and so forth. Very, very little cost. I would say over the term of our wildlife program, we probably spent less than $500. It's allowed us to work with area community groups. We've worked with the scouts, as you can see there. A scout created a butterfly garden. Actually, scouts created butterfly gardens at all three of our treatment plants. We've also worked with the Gaston County Piedmont Area Wildlife Stewards Program. They've come and installed wood duct boxes for us. So it's really been one of those feel-good projects all around that's really been staff-driven. And then at the same time, we've worked with the Wildlife Federation through their Wildlife and Industry Together program, which offers some recognition if that's something your organization is interested in. Their goal is to really use some of this land that is taken up by industrial uses to really try and foster native species of both plants and animals. And at the treatment facilities, you know, we have a lot of space, so we're able to do that. And again, it's just a feel-good program for our staff. So in terms of alignment of goals, you know, there really is the opportunity to have overlap between pollution prevention, increasing efficiency, and reducing costs. And that's something that we have really focused on, and we've been really proud of our accomplishments in that area. So to summarize, for us, both the environmental management system, the ISO 14001, and the Environmental Stewardship Initiative are really management programs that we use that align really well with both our business objectives and our environmental objectives. And going beyond our compliance obligations does not have to increase capital costs or operating costs. Again, that assumption, you know, sometimes people assume you need to do some huge, you know, few $100,000 capital project to really reduce pollution. And that's not been what we've seen. We've also not seen an increase in operating costs. In fact, it's been the opposite. We've been able to decrease our operating costs in some areas. And then for us, that's beneficial because, you know, we can go to management and say, okay, we've reduced our cost over here in electricity, or we've reduced our costs over here in chemicals. Let's put that money back into our treatment facilities and reinvest that. And then that in turn helps get our staff excited about participating because they can see that their efforts are coming back to them in terms of new equipment or replacement equipment or those sorts of things that may make their day-to-day life easier, or may just be an improvement that they can buy into. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions that anybody has.
All right, Stephanie, that was great information, and we really appreciate here at ESI the partnership we have with Two Rivers Utilities. We do have a question that's come in. So one of the folks joining us today wants to know if you have any comments or information on vigilance for waste spills into collection systems.
For waste bills into collection systems?
Waste spills.
Bills. I'm sorry, I was like, bills, I'm not sure. Yes, spills are a tough one. So what we do through our pretreatment program is try to stay in very close contact with our industrial customers that are permitted through our pretreatment program. We really work to build strong relationships and partnerships with those industrial customers. And then we encourage them to contact us if they're having any type of issue, and offer to help them to the extent that we can. So from the industrial customer's perspective, we really try to focus on the relationship aspect because they're the most likely folks that would have a spill. And then, you know, there can be the illegal dumping, which I guess is not, maybe not 100% what the question was, but the illegal dumping by haulers and that sort of thing is a much more difficult prospect to manage. But trying to keep a close eye on what's normal so that if there is something abnormal coming into the treatment plant, we can do an investigation right away and try to correct it as soon as possible.
Right. Great. So we don't have any other questions right now, so feel free to type those in. But Stephanie, I just wanted to ask, so Two Rivers Utilities has implemented environmental goals across a wide range of resource areas, and you guys have, as you noted, accomplished a vast improvements in your operation. What type of goals is TRU working on now?
Oh, you asked the hard questions. One of the goals that we're continuing on is working with some of our area wastewater plants to decommission treatment plants. So that's something that we put a lot of focus into. We're still working on reducing our chemical usage and electrical usage. And those folks on the chat today that are ESI members know the longer you've participated, the more difficult that can be. So you kind of get that low-hanging fruit at first, and then you have to really work a little bit harder moving forward to achieve those goals. So right now, a lot of the goals that we're pursuing are continuing our earlier goals and implementing greater gains in those areas.
Okay. We had a question. Was it easy to get employee and community engagement for the NC Wildlife Program?
Yes, it was actually our staff's idea. So from a staff perspective, that was extremely easy in terms of staff brought it to the supervisors and said, hey, we want to do this. And the community engagement has been surprisingly easy as well. There are some groups in this area that are interested in wildlife and so forth. And we reached out to those groups and said, hey, how can we work together? And they immediately said, we want to come visit you. We want to see, what space you have to offer, what species might be appropriate. And then I think we reached out to the scouts, and the scout leadership submitted that out to the different troops and so forth. And the particular projects I was talking about with the butterfly gardens, those were actually Boy Scouts, Eagle Scout projects that they completed to get their Eagle Scout. So it actually was very, very easy. And it's been something that's just really been positive for everyone all the way around.
And can you just describe, so we may have some ESI members that would be interested in joining WAIT. Can you describe what the process is to get recognized by them?
Yeah, so it's on their website. So you have to have a public education component of your program. You have to do some projects that encourage native flora and fauna. And it's pretty simple, actually. I mean, they go through their requirements, and they don't require you to do specific things. They don't say, okay, you have to do a butterfly garden, or you have to do something with bog turtles or anything specific. They let you come up with the projects, and then you document and submit to them, and then receive the certification. So it's surprisingly simple.
Okay. We have a question. Does TRU have any future plans for methane recovery and alternative energy projects?
We have looked into that, and that was something that would require a fairly large capital investment. We do have anaerobic digesters at 2 of our treatment plants, so there is the opportunity to recover that methane. But it's something we have not been able to get funding for internally so far because it would require a fairly large capital investment. But it is something that we keep an eye on in terms of the methane reuse. And then in terms of biosolids in general, we are planning to do a study coming up, hopefully within the next probably 2 years or so, to look at our biosolids product and determine what the best path forward is. And that will include considering energy recovery from the biosolids.
All righty. This is a question from me, Stephanie. So many organizations in NC and across the US and the world right now are seeing impacts to their operations and their goals from climate change. Can you describe any challenges that TRU is seeing and how you're managing those actual and potential impacts?
From climate change, I guess some of the things that we're seeing are weather pattern changes that may be due to climate change that impact our operations. you're seeing things like larger storms, 100-year storms are happening more often than every 100 years and that sort of thing. And those can be very difficult to manage in a utility. At this point, we don't have any specific plans to address that, but we are doing a lot of projects to try and reduce inflow and infiltration into the collection system, which helps mitigate those types of things.
All righty. So just some kudos for you, Stephanie. We had staff from EPA Region 4 that helps ESI with our grant. And so they said amazing projects and great presentation. Thank you for sharing. And then your fellow Stewart Daimler Trucks wanted to say thank you for the time and presentation and your outstanding partnership that you two have had. So that's a plug for ESI. A lot of our members are able to chat, network, learn about each other, but also use the same processes to improve their operations. So thank you from DTNA to TRU.
Yeah, and that's one of the things we have really found helpful through the Environmental Stewardship Initiative is hearing from our peer organizations as to what they're doing. That helps give us ideas for things as well. So we also appreciate Daimler as well as the other ESI members and that conversation and collaboration that can happen throughout the membership. And I would also say kudos to the ESI staff as well, because the ESI staff does a great job of getting members in touch with each other. Since they're familiar with all of the members, if they understand a challenge that one member has, they do a great job of getting members in touch so that they can talk, peer to peer and get ideas and feedback and so forth. So that's one of the things that we found really beneficial about the ESI program.
Thank you. We're happy that we have happy ESI members, and we're hopeful that if we've got folks on today that aren't ESI members, you're going to get interested and reach out to us. So we don't have any other questions that have come in. So as Dawn mentioned, we are going to get copies of the slides out, and you'll get a link to the recording that we have. As we are getting ready to leave you today, you're going to get a survey as you leave. So please take the time to fill that out. That helps ESI identify what areas our members want to learn about or to help us as a program. If there's any ways that we can improve on what we did today or get you in touch with somebody on a particular subject, just let us know. And I think that's about it. So Stephanie, thank you again for the willingness as a steward to present and share with the rest of ESI and other industries and organizations across NC.
Absolutely. And again, thank you all for the opportunity.
All right. Everyone, enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.